So David is one of the principals of Canning Liturgical Arts, which is a division of John Canning and Company, and has helped lead the company for over 25 years. As a professional associate of the American Institute for Conservation of Historic and Artistic Works, AIC, and an Association for Preservation Technology recognized professional, he is an industry-recognized expert on historic flat and ornamental plaster, as well as decorative painting techniques, gilding and glazing, and has developed multiple innovative solutions for complex restoration conditions. David has been committed to preserving and restoring beauty in Catholic churches throughout his career, including large-scale projects such as the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe in La Crosse, Wisconsin, the restoration of St. Mary's in New Haven, Connecticut, and the conservation of the Basilica of the Sacred Heart in Hanover, Pennsylvania. Please welcome to the stage David Riccio for his presentation, Reviving Beauty Through Decoration, a Craftsman Perspective on Restoration and Renovation.
I would like to take you on a journey, a short journey hopefully, and guide you through two examples of work that we have done with an emphasis on architectural decoration, which of course is maybe considered one of the minor arts, as Duncan talked about the mother art being architecture. So he kind of led in nicely for me, but he is a hard act to follow, of course. The first project is a preservation project, restoration project of the Basilica of the Sacred Heart, an early American basilica inspired by the Chiesa del Gesù in Rome, and a modest restoration of a very small chapel, but very spiritually powerful chapel in Connecticut, dedicated to San Joselito. And I'll explain who San Joselito is for those that are not familiar. My objective will be to share insights into decoration and how it is employed in the support of the mother major art, as architecture, and the other major arts, painting and sculpture. Before I take you through the, before I take you, I went all the way, I think I screwed up my whole presentation. Sorry, folks. Let's see if I can take you, I'm gonna escape. Can I do that? Okay. It jumped ahead all the way. So there we go. Very good. All right. So, back to our work. Before I take you through the particulars, I will share some insights about decoration in sacred art and architecture. As artisans, we look to sculpture, of course, traditional architecture, art, durable building fabrics and materials, historic precedences, and principles of color and geometric patterns that are really important to us. Okay, so there we go. What is decoration? Okay, that's like a very simple question. But the answer over the past 75 years may tell a very different story, a very complicated story. And because of the attempts, of the decorative attempts that have been tried in churches, has changed maybe the meaning of decoration and also the lack of use of decoration in support of architecture and art. We're seeing decoration being not used at all, or if it's used incorrectly or not to the highest standard of quality that the other speakers have discussed over the past 2 days. But very simply, architectural decoration is the act of adding something to an object or a space to make it more visually appealing, meaningful, or festive. At its core, decoration should be purposeful and have an impact on aesthetics, expression, to reflect the personality, the taste, beliefs, and values of one, to celebrate, maybe mark a very important time, such as a jubilee. And of course, they should be symbolic and have meaning that represents or suggests a quality, a characteristic, or a concept. And of course, again, atmosphere. They should be able to provide a specific mood or concept and cultural identity. Cultural identity signifying the belonging of a particular group or tradition in Catholic faith. As with architects and artists who look to Palladio and Bernini and Raphael and Michelangelo, we, as decorative painters, look to our design heritage from the likes of Augustus Pugin, William Morris, Owen Jones, and the colorist David Ramsay Hay. Most of these are 19th century designers. We study their works, and of course, we study their design rubrics. Owen Jones is probably most important to us, and me in particular. Owen Jones' seminal book, The Grammar of Ornaments. It has 37 propositions that put order and placement to decoration and color. He just orders the whole idea of decoration and where it goes. And it makes sure that that decoration is very much in a supportive role to architecture and art. And his first, and dare I say, most important proposition is that the decorative arts arise from and should properly be attended upon architecture. Really important. It does not supersede architecture. It is in the supportive role of architecture. His other propositions, for example, Proposition 17, the primary colors should be used on the upper portions of objects, secondary and tertiary color on the lower portions of objects. So we practice these things. We put our colors in these kind of orders and they make sense. So we're not just deciding where they go because we think they look nice. Another proposition, very simply, is colors on white grounds, or light grounds, if you will. Colors on white grounds appear darker, and on darker grounds appear lighter. So the play of light colors on dark and what that happens in that relationship, and dark colors on light. And you artists, of course, know all this. These principles and propositions guide us through our work as decorative painters. Even at the Sistine Chapel, I just kind of threw this in today, even at the Sistine Chapel, there's decoration. So everybody's looking up, of course, at Michelangelo's incredible work and the works on the side walls. But if you look at the 1/3, the lower register of that space, it is entirely decoratively painted. So those fabrics that are looked to be draped down, that is nothing more than what is called illusionistic painting, or trompe-l'oeil, a French term. And those fabrics are painted on the flat plaster. There's created shadows. There's actually gold leaf to giving it a shimmering effect. And then in between each one of those bays of fabric are these pilasters. They're of course meant to be architectural elements, but they are painted. They are not three-dimensional pilasters. And then across that decoration, across the fabric, that is also what is known as trompe-l'oeil. So there is decoration even in our most important, beautiful, significant Catholic buildings, and that decoration is, of course, supporting the major arts. So bear this in mind as I take you through the little examples, humble examples of the work that we've been doing, or try to do. Now, I'm going to take you to this, I think, incredible building. This place here, this chapel, has historic, artistic, and spiritual importance. It's the minor shrine of the Sacred Heart in Hanover, Pennsylvania. This tiny region in southeast Pennsylvania is known as Conewago, an Indian name, of course. This tiny region is in, this parish was founded in 1730. That's right, 1730, by Jesuit missionaries from Baltimore. Catholic settlers, many of them German and Irish descent, found fertile land in this valley and settled there. The presence of the Jesuit missionaries from the late 18th century onwards provided vital spiritual and community leadership in what would be a rough time for Catholics. At the time, the parish grew to be the largest in the United States, with 1,000 families. By 1787, the outgrowing wooden chapel, they set out to build a new chapel to accommodate the growth in Catholic aspirations. And these are actual photos of course, of the nuns and so forth. They're quite interesting. The Federal-style sandstone building facade was chosen to fit in with the architectural precedents established in the region and of that time. I also think they didn't want to be too bold with Catholics and have Roman kind of edifices out in the open there. So there would be free shots on them. But anyhow, this is an early example of the procession through the chapel grounds, and you can see so many people going through there, and just the vitality of these people and what their desires were for their faith. Now, here's where it gets interesting. For the interior, they chose the Baroque style as a visual testament to the Sacred Heart's glory. Now note the low dome at the center crossing. That has artwork in there. There's artwork peeking out at the transept ceilings, and the illusionistic painting at the walls which is, I mentioned, known as trompe-l'oeil. Their inspiration for the art and decoration was from the Jesuit church of the Chiesa del Gesù in Rome. This interior emphasizes, of course, the heightened religious fervor of the Counter-Reformation. And the fervor that can be was seen also, they carried that fervor through the Conewago Chapel as well. They really were excited about the idea in connecting these two churches visually and then therefore spiritually. Like the Gesù, the chapel features a central dome with illusionistic painting. The Gesù nave ceiling features a fresco of the triumph of the name of Jesus. However, for the nave at the Conewago Chapel, the Assumption of Mary was depicted, which is here. It's also in disrepair at this point, and I'll show you what we went through to restore it. The next several slides will be of the historic interior prior to the 1962 overpainting and remodeling, and I think, Kathleen, you recalled it a renovation. And certainly that's the case here. Take note of the marble altar. It was beautiful Carrara marble altar. It was later mutilated in 1962, taken down for something else, and I'll show you that. The three paintings across the transept and dome ceilings are a series of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Oh, I'm sorry, they're referred to as the Wonders of Divine Love. And here's the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and all three of these paintings depict Trinity in form. The Ascension of Christ, and Christ's act of humility and self-emptying from Isaiah 45:8. Above the apse, which is this incredible painting, features the triumphal chorus of angels, thousands of angel faces, creating an opening to the heavens, revealing the Blessed Sacrament. And here's a closer look at that. Now, I want to focus on the decorative painting as much as the artwork, because that's what we do, even though we were part of the art restoration. I want to point out the illusionistic decorative painting of the frame encompassing the artwork of the crucifixion. So that frame is nothing more than two-dimensional paint to look like three-dimensional molding. And that is a common theme in this space. The nativity scene also has illusionistic painting. And in these scenes, you can see they're fully formed, the angel above, and all the details of these paintings, which will later be destroyed. This is a very interesting painting as well, the vision of the Sacred Heart to St. Margaret Mary. The painting is framed in wood with gold, quite large, and is supported by the simulated wall panels in trompe-l'oeil that flank it. So that's all trompe-l'oeil decoration around the mural. And one last point, I'm going to go back to that real quick. Oh no, this picture will do. The crenellation at the top of that painting with the cross and the filigree on top was also taken down as part of the 1962 restoration and unfortunately discarded. This image captures the illusionistic paintwork, of course the artwork, supporting the artwork, including the floral scrolls inside framed panels. So the decoration is doing its job surrounding and encompassing that artwork and letting the artwork be the major feature. And here's an overall of this space. These photos are around 1900 as best we can tell. In 1962, the chapel was overpainted completely in an attempt to modernize or renovate. The imposing Greek revival baldacchino was added after they destroyed the altar, and which shortened an already very shallow sanctuary or apsal space. So it made much less room to perform the Mass and any sort of larger type Mass. The addition, if you could see on top of that baldacchino was a light, a garden type floodlight, throwing light onto the ceiling, which of course has a hot spot right at the center of the painting, and everything else goes black. So you can't, the painting's obscured also by the architecture as well as these silly lights. There was a reduction to the wooden pulpit, and of course a complete overpainting of the walls and ceiling decoration, and they used sponging. So they painted the walls like this beigey tan color and then took sponging and just sponged the walls. over artwork and decoration. It's kind of insane. That was the times, I suppose. But most horrifically, all of the artwork was overpainted, except for the 3 altar paintings. They were damaged, but they were overpainted. Now, the nave. The hand-carved station frames, which are not here, they were these beautiful frames in oak. They were taken down and put into a barn. And I'll get into that in a moment. And the plaster reliefs, which were polychrome plaster reliefs of the Passion, were painted a beige so that they could literally recede into the wall. And then he put these weird light troughs under those and then uplit it. So when you're looking at the faces of the Passion, you see their chins and the underside of their noses being lit. So kind of ghoulish, frankly. Just very bizarre kind of thing. And then one of the most disturbing things, and Duncan mentioned he likes coat of arms, which I do too, and we've employed them in churches. But this became kind of over the top. I think they have 20 coat of arms throughout the space. The coat of arms are positioned directly above all the stations and into the sanctuary. And they're very vividly painted and depicted. And the pastor, the rector, Father Schleierlein, he did not like them at all. And I'm not speaking out of school because he's publicly stated this, that he felt there was a sense of authority or power that was being imposed into the building. And he wanted those immediately removed. And so that's one of the things we set out as part of the restoration. The transepts. The left image is, of course, depicting the crucifixion and Calvary and Our Lady and John and Mary Magdalene. But all that trompe l'oeil in the black and white photo and the background of the scene has all been painted over, gone. The trompe l'oeil, everything. Including the painting itself has been completely overpainted here. And you can see on the right, the coloration of Our Lord. Of course, it's corpus now. His natural flesh tones are gone, but his torso, his chest, his arms are really peculiar now. Not well done, to say the least. And then on the opposing side is the nativity scene. So the birth of Christ and the death of our Lord. Similarly, they paint out all the backgrounds of the scene and got rid of all the supporting decoration. So how do we get into the restoration? It's a very simple process, but laborious. We start out by doing what's called a paint study, and I'm not going to get too deep into that, but one of the things we do, and I'm showing you here, is I went on site and started to peel back layers of paint to find the original decoration, hopes I could find scant evidence which will allow me to piece that together and then reconstruct the remaining. And do you see the sponging effect, by the way, around it? Really terrible. So using chemicals and making kind of these old-fashioned recipes, which decorative painters tend to do, we have a concoction in our company that we use quite well, and I'm using scalpels and blades, and I'm allowing these chemicals to soften up the paint coatings and reveal the decoration. It's not usually terribly easily. It's tedious. But here you can start seeing the decoration is being revealed in real time. I actually have a video of it, and I'll show it here in a second. But that was my first attempt at an exposure. That's in the sanctuary, those panels that flank the altarpiece. And it's incredible. And you see the gold bits around the red border. They're still intact. It's genuine gold leaf. And this is where I wonder, at this point, who had this idea to paint this out? Why they painted this out? Can you imagine? I can't. If someone asked me to paint something out as a decorative painter, I would say thank you very much. I will see you. And of course, I would tell them they're making a huge mistake out the door. But there's a lot of people that are involved in this action. It's not just the pastors. It's the whole community, including the bishop and down to the parishioners, that they all allow this happen, and to the 2 guys in a pickup truck that did this. So once I started getting through the patterns, we start documenting them for replication or restoration. But these were in such good tack, we were actually able to save them. So when you see at the end of this work, most of the work, this decoration is from the 1840s. Here's an exposure I did, and some of the paints are failing, so you can try to expose what you can. And this is a trompe-l'oeil capital of a pilaster. So it's like an archaeological dig, but on a really micro level. And this is a pilaster base at up here at the corner of the front room, at the intersection of the transepts and the crossing. And you can see that those terrible light troughs above. But that exposure is probably about 8 feet wide, about 6 feet tall. Now, I'm going to show you this exposure if I can. Let's see. Oh, sorry. So in real time, I'm scraping off paint to reveal decoration. I'm thinking, my goodness, this is a treasure. I'm able to clean it off later, and any little repairs that need to be done, of course, we take care of them. So we're fortunate that we could do this and restore it. Many projects, you just can find fragments and piece that together and then recreate based on what you have and what you have to interpret to fill in the blanks. And more exposures, an entire pilaster we exposed. That pilaster is about 20 feet or so. And you can see the original decoration poking through with the panel, the sienna panel, faux marble panel in there. And what they did with the decoration here, this is at the apex of one of the side altars. The side altars were built in wood and marbleized in Carrara. But the decorators, to complete this interesting relationship between three-dimensional and two-dimensional work, they painted this scroll in Carrara marble, and then the leaves and the cross cropping out of it. So it's filling out the details, and they're working together in harmony. We have wood, three-dimensional versus two-dimensional, all coming together. And we went on to do more exposures. We're exposing the upper walls and the transepts here in the ceiling. We found these triangular panels on the wall next to the lunette window, which was referred to as a spandrel. And you can see the three-dimensional decoration coming through the paint. And now, just some of the examples of the artwork. This is the Assumption of Mary. And I'm not sure if this detail is great, but there's two faces there. There's the one with the blue highlights and outlines. That is the 1962 rendition with these kind of psychedelic colors. And you could start to see the original artwork from 1844 peeking through on the right. Yeah, see that? You see, even like if you study, even the arm of the angel is kind of really peculiar, and these are strange. Here in the sanctuary, back to the Blessed Sacrament painting above the apse, we're peeling off that gray-blue color, revealing the original artwork. So I must say here at this point, the original artwork was in great shape. It may need cleaning and a little bit of restorations, but it didn't require full repaint. So again, I don't know how these things happen, but they happen all the time. And I go into churches every week, and I'm frustrated to no end. Again, we're taking off the blue and revealing the wonderful golden skies behind the scenes of the Trinity. And I'm not exactly sure which scene this is, but anyways, you'll see more of that. Again, the overpainting. And the original work was far more vivid, far more attainable, not muddy at all. And then here's that comparison. And so that the ombre effect of the sky in the background is original. We, at this point, haven't touched and done any restoration. We just revealed the original work. And then below it, of course, now we're revealing all of it. And then more of the same. We're getting rid of the blue, revealing this wonderful burgundy kind of background that becomes a golden glow, and this wonderful effect. More of that. And then a lot of that decoration, the supporting decoration, the stuff that we do every day, revealing all that trompe-l'oeil in the ceiling around those paintings, adding to the relationship. And this picture is very interesting because it shows two-dimensional decoration as borders with a three-dimensional effect, but then you have three-dimensional molding right next to it. So they're really playing together. nicely. And then just a lot of the restoration process. The place is pretty much in disrepair. We're literally holding up the ceiling at this point because it's collapsing. And then just kind of overall, just the sheer volume of work that is ahead of us. And I'm kind of seasoned at doing these large-scale projects, but even when, with that experience, you walk into and get up close to a ceiling, you think, oh my goodness, we have 6 months to do this somehow. We'll figure it out, I guess, but it's a lot. And then after we got through that and we're starting to reconstruct, you'll see we're starting to lay out chalk lines for the pilasters and capitals that have to be reinstated, and our craftspeople and artisans are doing the work. And our staff consists of artists and artisans and art technicians. And so when they come to us, sometimes we teach artists how to be decorative painters, and some decorative painters go on to be artists. And I say that because I know there's artists here that are looking to launch a career, but many artists do decorative painting as well, and you can have a decent livelihood from that, by the way. And then here's one of our most talented artists. He came out to do some of the work. He's also a trained architect as well as a classically trained artist from Poland and studied in Poland. And here's the finished work on the right. More vibrant again, original art colors. We touched it up, we repaired it. And then, of course, the 2 before photos, I think would be to your right. Yeah. And then here's the overall completed work. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And just some more details. I'm going to skip this one. It's a video. I don't know if you need to actually see this one. But some more people working away. Oh, it's on, so I'll let it go, I suppose. But a bird's eye view, looking down, a different perspective altogether. So now the stations. I'll go quickly here. These stations were in a barn on property, several hundred yards away, earthen floor, rodents, and so animals were in this barn. These were stacked up on the earth with a ripped up, tattered blue tarp for 70 years. And so they had termite infestation. The rodents had gnawed on these pieces. Some completely nubbed things off. And so we had to go in and start doing the restoration of those. Here's the completed work. And of course, we reinstated the polychroming of the stations. And some of the details that we're hand carving now, some of those crockets, as they may be called here. And so they're integrated. I'd have a hard time myself finding out our repairs versus original. And just overall kind of effect of the room now. You can see that wonderful painting of the Blessed Sacrament descending upon us, opening up. And now the altar is put back in place. We had fabricated. It matches the original. It's all back to where it was in the 1800s. We've not tried to put our kind of mark on this project. It's not Canning's work. I dare I say the artists who did the artwork, the decorative painters who did the decorative painting work, this is their work. It was just our honor to put back what they did, which was far easier, frankly. And just another view. And overall. All that trompe-l'oeil on the ceiling, that's all trompe-l'oeil. None of it's three-dimensional molding. And then this one, I think, is really kind of sums it up. You have the artwork, of course, centerpiece, most important, the major art. And then even the framework is trompe-l'oeil to look like gold. It's actually paint. It's not even real gold leaf. It's paint to emulate gold. And how rich that Baroque frame is. And then all the panels around it in really kind of neutral tones, allowing the vivid colors of the artwork to do their thing. And now I'm going to switch over to a much more smaller, if that's okay, project. This is a really small renovation and a chapel that would probably, I don't know, it's literally maybe 20 feet by 30 feet long, very small. And this project took place at St. Joseph's Parish located in Fairfield County, Connecticut. Now, Fairfield County, Connecticut is one of the richest counties in America, but Norwalk or South Norwalk is not one of the richer towns. This parish was originally, of course, built for Irish immigrants, which was very common in Connecticut. If they weren't Irish, they were Italian, I can tell you that. And they were on every street corner. But St. Joseph had a full parish, had a school, had a convent, a rectory, very typical. Originally built for the Irish. And now, of course, demographics change. And over the past 20 years, it is now, as the Irish have moved out and their families have moved out, Central American immigrants have moved in, predominantly Mexican, but there are from other countries, Venezuela and what have you. And they're just really amazing people, as I got to learn and inspired very quickly. These people did something to me far more than I think we had an impact on them. Behind the church is the convent, which is now a community center. The convent chapel was unused literally for decades. Father Roscoe, the pastor there now, decided to reopen the chapel, thankfully, for adoration, which is, we're seeing in the Northeast, adoration chapels being very much considered and put into practice at churches. And we've done a number of period-style adoration chapels, whether it be contemporary to Baroque and Gothic in between. So we're seeing that. I'm very pleased about it. Many of them are 24-hour, 7-day-a-week adoration chapels. And some of the ones that we've done for the past 10 years are very much active. They never close, even during COVID, by the way. So Father Roscoe decided to reopen this chapel for adoration in the name of San Joselito. Now, San Joselito. If you're not familiar with San Joselito, he was a young Mexican martyr who was killed in 1928 at the age of 14 during the Cristero War for refusing to renounce his faith. During the war, the Mexican government persecuted Catholics and the Catholic Church as much as they possibly could. Later, Pope Francis canonized Jose on October 16th, 2016, making him the newest Mexican saint. And the Mexican community, as you can imagine, is completely devoted to San Joselito, almost as much as Our Lady of Guadalupe. San Joselito is the patron saint, by the way, of persecuted Christians and children. At the age of 14, Jose was captured by the government soldiers who tortured him. He refused to renounce his faith and instead repeatedly proclaimed, "Viva Cristo Rey, Viva Cristo Rey, Viva Cristo Rey, long live Christ." His captors held him in chains, beat him repeatedly, and kept pushing him to renounce his faith, but he kept it. To add to his suffering, his captors slashed his feet and forced him to walk through town to his execution at the seminary while his mother watched. This story, of course, plays an important role for that community, but an important role for us as decorators and how we're going to project that back to them. Architecturally now, the space, very, as I mentioned, very modest space. The space is simple Gothic revival appointments. They're the most modest Gothic appointments. There's 3 arches. They point as sort of like a lancet, and then there's these Gothic opening, these windows seen here. The leaded glass, the Harlequin style patterns, pretty much contributing to the Gothic style. So when developing the decoration, I wanted the space to be spiritually moving and symbolic, of course, and a source of pride for the community. Because again, these are very poor people. They're living in a neighborhood that is not the most attractive, but for them to be able to walk into a space that is beautiful, I say they deserve it more than anybody. And that's how I looked at this project. So I wanted to bring that to them as best as my abilities could do. So I needed to do that, but also look at the Gothic style for our decoration and try to balance the two. So I looked at Gothic churches, which I often do in this case, and none other than Augustus Pugin. For those that don't know Augustus Pugin, I recommend getting his books and studying them. I looked at St. Giles in Cheadle and St. Chad's Cathedral, incredible Gothic buildings. And they tie into the Owen Jones idea of color decoration, light colors on dark colors, dark colors on light colors and these kind of things. So here's a decoration that was really inspiring to me at St. Giles. They inspired our work, certainly, but going back to Owen Jones, I see at least three or four of Owen Jones's propositions at play here, which was really exciting to me because I'm going to employ them in our chapel. From the use of gold on a dark background, which makes the gold more intense, more reflective. We can see there's a wonderful proportion, which is very important to Jones, and he describes that in great detail in his propositions. Dark color on light, and the use of geometric shapes. Mathematically correct geometric shapes and balancing them out, and placement. Very important. And here are some sketches for what would be the chapel, the sanctuary wall. Just simple sketches showing the basic concept around the windows, around the back wall, and above the tabernacle. One of the things I wanted to do, they built this little coffered ceiling, really modest. It's kind of a flat ceiling. They took this little rope molding from Home Depot, and they kind of fashioned a coffered ceiling. I thought, well, I got to decorate the ceiling. And I looked at a chalice veil, and I thought, well, that would be very appropriate, having a chalice veil pattern in these coffers. And I used two different patterns that would, of course, relate to the Mass and the performance of the Mass of the priest. And then this is kind of a typical nave bay with lots of decoration. I really wanted the decoration to be from floor to ceiling. At every turn, these devoted parishioners would look and they would see something that would catch their eye and that would be beautiful, and that would give a sense of order to their life and spiritual life with all the troubles that they tend to have. And I designed a monogram of interlocking SJ for San Joselito, of course, and the palms coming out of that. And I'm sure all of you know that palms are representative of martyrdom, and so I wanted that to be picked up into the design. Now here's the chapel beforehand, and I have to show you that so you can get a sense of what the transformation is. In the right-hand side of the picture is San Joselito as a statue. Now San Joselito, when he's depicted, he has a white button-down shirt and denim jeans, and that's how he was murdered. And here it is today. I'm going to walk you through this a little bit. I like Duncan, I like using the written word, scripture, where we can, but written word in this case from San Joselito. So there are three arches. In the first arch, the one closest to us, I don't speak Spanish, so forgive me, but I'll give the interpretation. And as Joselito is heading to his execution, and he sees his mother, and she's upset. Oh boy. He says, "It was never so easy to earn heaven." Wow, that has to go there. And then the second one says, "Long live Christ the King, long live the Virgin of Guadalupe." And then, of course, closest sanctuary, we have Sancto, 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 holy, holy, holy. Additionally, there's a lot going on here. There's these rich, deep colors, and then there's these light colors, and there's gold. And I'm going to take you through them and how they came about more specifically. The arches above those, they're springing out of the arch, of course, are the palm. Gold palms with a dark background, this rich green, which has a sheen to it, and then the reds above it. So I'm playing with complementary colors. I'm playing with some neutral colors in the bands. I'm playing with these rich, deep greens below, almost black, where Owen Jones talks about dark colors or black colors as a ground will suffer on light colors, meaning they are sacrificed so the light colors can really come forward. And so we're picking that up. And then in the sanctuary, you can see now those little modest coffers that have the chalice veils, the two chalice veils, and then, of course, the Holy Spirit descending down above the tabernacle and the altar of sacrifice. Even in this picture, I have this kind of medium green that is a high gloss, and I'm trying to bring that forward while at the same time pushing the wall behind it back with this blackened green color, and then letting the gold almost float behind the tabernacle. And the tabernacle, the motif there is our Lord's name, IHS, with a crown and a monstrance in gold. And it's just a little closer up version of that. And you can see the reflection of the light coming through the arch. And then here's an up-close version. And what I really like about this is that I'm not just thinking about the decoration here, about the order of decoration, but I'm also thinking about these colors and how they're affecting the architecture in front of it. So we have this incredible white marble altar. So that is the light color in front, if you will, being marble, in front of the dark color. So it's making the white even more intense. So applying these principles and propositions once again. Now, the little side walls of the sanctuary, I wanted to do something here and having Our Lady depicted, albeit symbolically in this pattern to the right. So this, of course, is the icon of Our Lady of Czestochowa, and she's depicted with a turquoise blue, deep blue mantle with a gold fleur-de-lis, and at the top of her habit, there's a single star. And if you look at this pattern, it's maybe a little bit tricky because it's not the best quality. I have that very rigid, those patterns of fleur-de-lis on a deep background and then the star at the center. And I wanted to introduce this because if you know the story of this icon, you can see her face has been slashed. In the 1400s, some barbarians tried to destroy the icon and it was repaired, but these slash markings keep returning. And I thought, Our Lady should be here to provide comfort to our Lord, but also to provide comfort to San Joselito as his mother would have on his way to his execution. So that is my connection with the slashing. And of course, the frame around it is red and gold, which Christ child here, red and gold, the red depicting the blood that he will shed for us, and the gold is his perfect nature. So I wrapped that frame in gold and red. And then, of course, the ceiling. There's always a call for us to do blue ceilings and stars in churches. Every week we get someone to call us and say, we want blue stars and ceilings. And it could be the most classical building, and it really doesn't belong there, but they ask. But I took a twist on that, and these are stars, but they're very kind of Gothic, Puginesque stars. And the blue, you can see the blue is it's vivid, it's primary, but it's much lighter than the blues and the deep greens on the walls and the reds below it. So it's kind of a lifting effect. And then, of course, the red and gold is coming back at you, and they're very distinct. And just some of the details here. And I'm using, even at the windows, I have a really kind of a primary blue, and then there's a pinstripe of orange next to it. And of course, blue and orange are complementary colors. So you put them next to each other and they just help each other out. They make them stronger. And then I break the mid wall with a horizontal beige tone light, as Owen Jones talks about. And then I put deep reds. Not necessarily, I would call them dark. I would refer to them as deep. And then this red field above. Again, the red idea of martyrdom is a common theme throughout this work. And then the palms. And here you can see I have the deep red columns, but they're with a gloss finish. And then I have this medium green stripe above it. And it's dead flat color. So it's not catching light, it's absorbing it, but the pilaster itself is. And then the beige, creamy yellow tone above it is glossy. So there's a lot happening. I'm trying to get your eyes to move around. And of course, with the palms, they are a flat color, allowing the almost to kind of have a negative effect. And because this was done during COVID, and I don't want to get too deep in this, but in the story of this, but I ended up doing this project as a volunteer, and I met the priest and the people there, and I started working on that sanctuary wall. And next thing you know, one decoration leads to another, to another, to another, and we did this whole project as a volunteering effort. And I was able to capture during COVID my 8th grade. I have 4 children. My 8th grade son, who was locked in, as we all know what that was like for these kids. And I was like, "You're going to come to work with me." And I had him gold leafing the sanctuary wall. So he had never done that, but that was his introduction. And this is my daughter, who is now working in her studio full time. She has multiple degrees in art, and she is working on some major projects for us. But here she is volunteering her weekends to do the work, which I was very proud of her for that. And then other staff members joined in. I kind of coerced them to come in, spend a day with me when I need help on these large stencils. And I think they got a lot of joy out of that, frankly. Back to some of that work. Now, I'm not sure if you could see this in this photo, but the wall patterns have this kind of beigey tone of flowers, and they're intentionally flat where the background wall color is glossy. So as you look at that pattern, it goes away, it comes back, it undulates, very much like silk. And so there's a play on that. I could very easily just pick one sheen, but it loses just a little bit of subtlety and, dare I say, sophistication. And one of our senior staff members has helped me do the wainscoting stenciling on a piece of canvas that we attached to the wall. Now, that pretty much sums up. I just want, in closing, I'd like to propose maybe one more proposition, and that is that decoration is more than just superficial embellishment. It is a powerful form of communication. It's how we add beauty, meaning, and expression to our environment, and therefore transforming the ordinary into something special. Thank you very much.
I wanted to ask you, because I won't say his name, you probably know who I'm going to say. He's in Chicago and restores paintings. But one of the things that I enjoy about watching him work is that he has taken techniques and ideas from other disciplines that are not strictly art restoration, from printmaking or from automobile repair and stuff like that. Have you come across in your career things that you're like, that shouldn't work, but it does? Like, it's not strictly art conservation sort of thing.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yes, many of these disciplines, they're interchangeable. So we were talking earlier with the folks at Willett. 100 years ago and before, a decorative painter, or what was called an ornamental painter in Europe, an ornamental painter, church decorator, it was a trade that was also included stained glassware. So a decorative painter was also what is known as a stainer. So they were able to use the same materials, same techniques. The difference is the medium is paint going on a wall, if you will, versus going on glass, which would eventually be fire. But a stainer and a painter were basically the same trait. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to conservation, whether it be fine art or decorative art, you're using pretty much exactly the same tools, maybe the same techniques, but the methodologies and materials are very similar.
Wow, that's great. Wonderful. Right, so that is still the quiet side of the room. I'm scanning. Yes, sir.
Oh, just a quick technique question on I love those, all of your pictures, but especially the videos of showing the revelation of
thank you.
The painting beneath and how the condition it was in and so forth. And how did you stop the chemistry from eating through the paint to just the right level? Is it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that obviously, there's some trial and error with that. So I do some small little trials in maybe 1 inch by 1 inch. I time them literally, and I know the chemicals I'm using and the recipes in which I use. And so I have enough experience. I can see these materials bubbling, if you will. And once I start peeling off paint, I rest them or neutralize them. In this case, I was using mineral spirits. Most of the materials we use are not very expensive necessarily, other than gold. They are common products. We use high quality versions of them, high quality pigments and such, but they're readily available.
We have time for one more if someone wants to snag my attention. Otherwise, I'm going to ask. All right, I'm going to ask it since this is my last one. Tell me how the people who are artists and architects and so on here in this room, what can they do to make your life easier? Because a lot of times they're coming to you, as you were showing with the Conrad Chapel, that the ceiling's caving in. Yeah. Like, it's gotten to a point where it's like, I don't know if we're going to make it, guys, but we're going to try it. Like, at what point does someone like you need to be sort of consulted when there is a restoration or a renovation that's going on? Does it need to be immediately, or do they need to sort of come up with their plans first and then work your way?
Ideally you're coming in early, so that they can start formulating their restoration program and how in depth it's going to be. They have to obviously think about budgets, time frames, and the importance of the decoration artwork. Is it vital to the future? And if it is, then you really want to bring us in very early in the process so we can explain the existing conditions, what's required to repair them, what the order of magnitude of cost, because this may have a significant impact on their budgets. We usually actually find if they don't bring us in until very late, it costs them more money because they've usually specified the work incorrectly because they're not subject matter experts.
Right.
They're generalists, and the architects, a lot of architects we work with, they do call upon us early, and just even if it's just some basic free advice. Hey, what do you think here? What would this take? We kind of give them some sort of sense of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was also interesting, obviously, in the case of the San Joselito Chapel, that this is, or at least I get the sense that this is a love thing for you. It's not a, I mean, you're all donating time, etc.
Yeah.
And what's been the reaction so far from the parishioners that have been using the chapel? Because it's very grand. It's very
small but grand.
Yeah, it's a jewel box.
Yeah, it's a jewel box.
Yeah,
so that was one of the ideas because, as I mentioned, they live these very rugged lives, very tough lives. They're so manual in everything they do, but yet they're so devoted. I admire their devotion. It's unwavering. And so when I went there the first day, I'm putting the gold on the back wall of the sanctuary, and these little ladies kept coming in, asking me what I want. Can I have a drink? They wanted to help me make my life easier. Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm trying to do something for that. And the whole thing was upside down to me, and I just thought, my goodness, these people are just amazing. But at the end of the work, they got Bishop Caggiano to come out and consecrate this chapel. And they, after this major mass in the chapel, we all gathered in procession, very much like they did at the Conewago Chapel. 1,000 people outside, of course, with a wonderful mariachi band, right? and I'm kind of amongst all these people, and we go into the chapel, and it's consecrated, and everybody goes through one by one through the chapel on the way out into their kind of large parking lot with tents and music and celebration, and thought, this is exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Honoring our Lord, honoring each other. And I thought, it doesn't get better than this.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. David, thank you very much.
You.
Really appreciate it.